Hello and welcome to the Knights of Awakening. I want to thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Justin Bay. Today we continue to shine the spotlight on the community to share the stories and hard work and dedication that come from the community. Today I'll be spending some time speaking with Jedi Trevus Nethimia from the Philosophy of the Great Jedi Facebook page. A quick little description on the page that we're going to be featuring today. The page description reads, an ethical philosophy, Grey Jedi, in which a combination of spiritualism and the art of the warrior, Jediism. The page is founded and ran by Jedi Trevus Nethimia, as I said earlier. Hello, Trevus.
Hey,
how are you, bud?
Hey, Justin. How you doing?
Pretty good. How's life in the great frigid north? Is that what they call it? The great frigid north, I think?
Some would say that. But it's actually quite nice. It's been nice lately.
Good. So I want to thank you for joining me today. Excuse me. So let's just get into it. One of my favorite things about interviewing people from the community is how they came to their Jedi name. For me, it's always like, if you find someone who has a tattoo that's a cool tattoo and they have a cool story that goes with that. I find that a lot of people have kind of a cool story about their Jedi name. Do you have a story how you came to your name and what kind of significance it holds for you personally?
Well, I've had Trevus Nethimia since I was very young, when I began the path, and it started back when I had first started watching the Star Wars movie. So, and after that, I started getting into the role-playing community and also looking for Jediism. But before I actually found the name Jediism, I searched on Google, of course, as probably most of us do, if there was any real-life Jedi. I thought, could this possibly be a modern-day philosophy that people could live by? And it inspired me to become exactly that. And now getting into where my name came from, Trevus, well, first it was Jarval Orlando, and I played on a chat site, and that was my character. And from that character, you either had a force sensitive and a non-force sensitive character. Jarval was my non-force sensitive character, and Trevus became my force sensitive character, which then I put it on Facebook, and it's been that way ever since. And I started looking around once I actually found the Jedi Church on Facebook, I started looking up the website, and that was about approximately 8 years ago now. And I've been on the path ever since. There were times where, I felt that a darkness had taken over me, myself, and my life. But I believe from that experience has led me to be the person I am today and be the Jedi I am today.
I've often told stories, and I won't relive it here, about how I got my Jedi name. But I can relate with the coming from darkness thing. I was not a good guy back in the day. By the good graces of my willpower and a few friends that I found within the community back in, 2002, I was able to reconcile that. So I feel you there. So how long? I think you mentioned it, but how long have you been on this path, specifically the Great Jedi path?
Well, the Great Jedi, getting into that, it came a little later. I first started at the Institute of Jedi Realist Studies, and I believe it had just recently been established because there was issues with accessing the material, and that's where I started the studies of the Jedi. And later on, I felt the Jedi didn't particularly fit me. So I went on searching for the different kinds of Jedi because there's the Jedi subclasses with the Guardian, the Sentinel, and the Consular. And then there was other classes of Jedi, as I found. And one of them happened to be Grey Jedi. and I read about it a little bit, and I thought, this could be, this could be me. This could be fitting to me. I don't follow all of, the Star Wars lore and stuff of how they were portrayed in the Star Wars universe. But I took some of that philosophy and I put it into a modern day outlook on it. Evolved ever since. And every day that I'm on the path and living it every day, I always come into new experiences that expand this philosophy, this understanding of what a great Jedi is.
From a community standpoint, I think a lot of people have at least a basic understanding of what a great Jedi is. For the benefit of those who don't know what that is, Knights Awakening have a lot of different backgrounds, and people on Blog Talk Radio who may be joining us right now may not understand the difference between a Jedi and a great Jedi, and we're going to get into that here in a little bit. A question I always like to ask Jedi, and I don't want to feel like I don't want people to feel like I'm putting you on the spot, but are you open about your path to others in your life, in your personal life? Do they know what you do and what you believe?
Oh, of course. I make it a point myself to live it and openly express it to anyone who is willing to listen.
I know, even for me, years ago, it was hard for me to express that to people. Most of us come from semi-strict backgrounds, whether that be religious or other. And it took me a few years to not care what people thought. And I know a lot of new Jedi who are coming in all the time, especially with the new movies and the new material being released. We're going to see a lot of people coming in who have found that spark, per se. And it's going to be hard for them, for most of them to, come out and open. And so I like to ask, people that, because I want to encourage other people to just be who you are. Don't be afraid to be a Jedi. If that's what you feel and that's who you believe you are, then, hopefully they come to a place where they can express that openly. So what other kinds of paths? Oh, go ahead.
No, I just had one last thought on that.
Yeah, sure.
On that, I found being a Jedi and growing up and learning the Jedi path that you go through stages. Because, when the first time you say to somebody that you're a Jedi, you're automatically ridiculed unless someone has an open mind, which I didn't live that open-minded experience. I was ridiculed for years and years for being who I was. So I pretended to be something I wasn't. And then finally, after so long, I just openly embraced the Jedi path. And, I find a lot of people have done that. And a lot of people are still embarrassed, per se, that they follow the Jedi philosophy. And to everyone out there listening, you don't need to be ashamed. The Jediism is growing every day, and the community is a great place for everybody to come together and talk about it and discuss and debate. And, and there's lots of great people. I found a lot of great people when I came to the community, and they have been nothing but an endless supply of inspiration to me every single day.
Yeah, those are great points, because a lot of times they'll say, well, it's not quote unquote recognized. It's not big like some of the others. And what I always say to them is this: look, go to the people who you trust. Go to your teachers. Go to your masters. Go to whoever you need to find that inspiration to be who you are, because it matters not that people outside of you care what you believe. That has to be a process within. And, so go to people to help inspire you to be unafraid. And it can be hard. It can be really hard sometimes. And I know, I lived it too. What other kinds of paths or philosophies kind of inspired you or pushed you in this direction?
Well, I've done a lot of spiritual studies as well. A lot of different areas of energy work, a lot of different areas, and discovering the self and evolving the self and enlightening, as some people say. And so, such as the chakras, which come from Buddhism, Hinduism. Those are levels of yourself. In Hinduism, the gates have gatekeepers called deities. But my interpretation as a Jedi would be the conscious levels of self. And when you unlock those conscious levels of self, you're letting go a little bit of you that was there and then evolving into more of you than what you were before. So, and then such as other energy work, such as meditation and other philosophical studies, and such as the samurai, for example, that is a great inspiration to me that I've embraced over the years, and it's really inspired me.
So before we get into your page and your philosophy and all that good bread and butter stuff, where else may people have seen you in the community? I mean, are there places that you generally hung out most, or do you have a home order or anything like that?
I am right now, I believe the name is Temple of the Jedi Force. I'm over on their page right now doing some studies myself. And also the Jedi Church, of course, is the first place that I came to discover. And then there was places who were run by Jedi called Adam Perry. He was a good friend of mine. Unfortunately, we had a falling out, but he runs the Jedi Citadel. That's another good place. And then just over time, I've come across different groups on Facebook of Grey Jedi orders, and I've talked to some of the other Grey Jedi. And sometimes we see eye to eye, other times we don't. But it's all in the greater exploration of understanding, the different opinions and perceptions and views people have.
It's all in the family, as they say.
Yeah.
I kind of always like to think of it that way. Since 2002, as things change, sometimes they say the same. And there are moments where people disagree, and there are fights, and there are arguments and conversations, but there's a lot of communion too. On the other side of that, there's a lot of understanding. There's a lot of respect. And I don't always mind when the community as a whole has a disagreement with each other, because that's what families do. I always kind of liken it to a family. All right, so let's get right into it here. Tell us about your community page, the Philosophy of the Grey Jedi. What is the intended objective or mission of your page?
Okay. Well, I first founded a group called Citadel of the Grey Jedi, which was my first intention of establishing a Grey Jedi Order. But as I come to realize, I was a little over my head. And I can openly admit that now. And I'm okay with that. And then I had made a page for it as well. So first it was Citadel of the Grey Jedi, which then later on, as the page evolved and I grew and I began to differently understand things and see different perceptions of the Jedi community, it became Philosophy of the Grey Jedi, having its finalized name. And my page's intention is to inspire and create inspiration for people to grow and be open with the Jedi community. And I'm not just touching people in the Jedi community. I'm going further and trying to introduce Jediism into kind of almost a mainstream look into it, because spirituality has kind of two big aspects. It has the mainstream, and then it has the kind of those who, go a little bit deeper. And I want to introduce it spirituality more, because Jediism is essentially spirituality and philosophy put together. So I'm introducing it into those communities as well. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback so far, and I've actually got one message from one person on the page, which I won't name, but his grandfather had passed, and he had sent a message to the page saying that the page had been a great changing for him and inspiration, and giving him direction on where he's going in his life, and giving him comfort about his grandfather's passing. And getting messages like that is the whole reason I made the page, and I continue with the page, to give those people peace and inspiration to go on and become better and grow.
Let's say I'm a new person to the community, or to your page, rather. What kinds of things could I expect to find when I log on to your page?
Well, the first one you're probably going to see is the pin post, which is my absolute favorite post of them all on there, and that's why I have it pinned. It is the story of Warrior in the Garden, and perspective it's come from is taken from a martial artist perspective on it, and he goes into depth and detail of how the story of the warrior in the garden and what it means.
Well, tell us how that story is relevant to your experience. I don't know if everybody's heard the story that you're talking about. Just kind of give us a quick little summation of it so they know what you're talking about.
Well, there's warrior and a master in the master's garden. And the warrior, his apprentice, the master's apprentice, is getting impatient and, and he says to the master, well, what am I doing here? This is stupid. I should be training and not gardening. And then the master says to him, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. To be peaceful in everyday situations in battle than it is to be a gardener in a war. Because what good is a gardener in a war? But a warrior in a garden could find peace and serenity from that training of the mind and spirit.
That story also reminds me of one of my favorite movies, which, by the way, is 1,000% historically accurate to the T. 300.
That's a good movie. I've seen
that part where Leonidas meets up with the other Greeks and he starts asking everybody what their profession is, and here's all these different professions in a war, and then he asked, of course, the Spartans, and they have one profession. 1,000,000% historically accurate. I'm pretty sure. Probably.
Or at
not,
least close enough.
Yeah, great movie though.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the Knights of Awakening, as it is multicultural in so many different ways. We have so many different religions, paths, experiences, point of views, so on and so forth. Some of them out there listening right now may not know the difference between a Jedi versus what a gray Jedi is. Can you tell us some of the differences and similarities between them, and maybe what makes a gray Jedi unique as its own aspect? That's a great question, and it's created so much controversy in the community. And I've explained it plenty of times. Some people sometimes, but my best reference is the yin and yang, which is balance. Now, to the light, there must be darkness, and the gray Jedi serves a light, but per se live in the darkness. Gray Jedi come from a certain perspective on life. They have lived a certain experience, that they have experienced as darkness. They have seen and faced their inner demon at the most bottom point of their life, and they've come back into the light from it, and to use that darkness, that understanding of that inner self, and used it as a drive to drive them forward in their path, their journey, and in life towards the light.
So let's say for someone who may be an agnostic Christian, and when they think of Star Wars, or when they think of the word Jedi, they automatically maybe go to Luke Skywalker, or even the prequels, the mob of Jedi fighting off all of the in the arena there. What would you say to them to help them tell the difference between what would be like bullet points, just like 2 or 3 things that someone could tell the difference right away between a Jedi and a gray Jedi?
A Jedi and a gray Jedi. From a Star Wars perspective or a realism perspective?
I would say from a Star Wars perspective for people who don't understand, the intricacies of it. And then you can give us a couple for the realism aspect of it.
Sure. So in Star Wars lore, the gray Jedi are strictly for balance, because the Force is technically a neutral energy. It contains light and darkness, and then there's living force, and then the cosmic force, or the universal force, as we call it. And the gray Jedi more lived for the living force, because they more focused on themselves, on people, the inner self, as I said before, and because people essentially are very gray. In the Star Wars universe, the gray Jedi would go above and beyond the means that they deemed necessary to create balance between the light and darkness. A gray Jedi would destroy a planet if it eliminated a greater evil in order for the light to excel and exist. Or a gray Jedi would kill a bunch of light Jedi in order for there to be balance, for a dark force to flourish. And while, as we know in the Star Wars universe, Jedi strictly serve the light. And then in a realist perspective, a gray Jedi there's different kind of personality types. Gray Jedi would be a realist. And then I would think I would be an optimist or idealist. So it really does kind of come down to personality. It's not just about a balance between the darkness and light, because there's so much understanding in between. We're still Jedi. Gray Jedi, or if anyone says that a gray Jedi isn't a Jedi, they're not living the path. Because a gray Jedi is still a Jedi. They all came from that Jedi path. That's the originator. And in modern day perspective as well, we are still Jedi. Just gray is another perspective of the Jedi path.
Mm-hmm. I like to think, from a personal point of view, that a gray Jedi would be someone who, despite how popular or unpopular a choice may be, that they have to make the choice to do something.
They do what is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing. Jedi will always do what is good. A gray will do sometimes what is necessary to go beyond that.
Mm-hmm. What would be an example from the fiction of a gray Jedi that people may know?
Well, maybe like in the Star Wars lore. Well, there was plenty of different gray Jedi factions that did. I guess the biggest one may be the Imperial Knight. And
a lot of people would consider Qui-Gon to be a gray Jedi from the movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
That dude had a set of grapefruits on him.
Yeah.
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 Because he would go to the council and he would take their advice, but Qui-Gon. I think Qui-Gon and Mace Windu should have been switched as the actors, because it always reminds me of. I think it was the first Avengers movie where Samuel L. Jackson, who played as Nick Fury, said, yeah, I understood your orders, but what do you say? I understand your decision, but considering it's a stupid ass decision, I've decided not to follow it or something. And that always reminds me of Qui-Gon when he goes before the council the couple times there.
Yeah, he wanted to do what was for balance of the Force. He wanted to train Anakin because he's seen the potential in the light. I believe personally, this is my opinion, that if Qui-Gon survived the encounter with Darth Maul, Anakin probably would have been able to become a Jedi and live within that balance, because he would have been able to help his anger and his regret and despair towards his mother, and I get plenty of other feelings. And Obi-Wan was strictly trained from the Order. He was trained in the art of the light, so he didn't have this understanding of balance. He always lived for good. And while Qui-Gon was able to do what was necessary at times, even if it was against counsel, or sometimes even, I almost like to think a gray Jedi is a Jedi who thinks outside the box. An alternative method.
Does your page, I don't know, do you kind of consider it just a page for now, or would you consider it a community?
Well, I would like it to grow into a community. I'd like my page to have some kind of impact or inspiration on the Jedi community even, or spot a new generation of Jedi to come into the community and seek this understanding. But right now, it's just a page. Because I personally myself am still evolving on the path, and I believe myself to be such at an early point that I'm not in my best ability right now to be teaching anybody. All I can do is provide a lesson, and if it inspires somebody, then I've done my job.
So thinking along those lines, is there an official code that you follow and that you would use as an official code or doctrine for your community or for your page once it becomes a community?
Well, I personally follow the Jedi code because I believe it to be more about the self than the Gray Jedi code, which is the traditional Star Wars Gray Jedi code. The Jedi code was made by philosophers, if my understanding is correct, and I've read the history. The Gray Jedi code was made by video game designers as part of a middle point to create the Gray Jedi.
Well, technically, the original code was made by role-playing authors.
Yeah.
I like to think that I've never had an issue with the fictional universe, only because it is what inspired me all them years ago. As you and I talked offline before the show, it was Knights of the Old Republic role-playing game for the original Xbox that got me hooked. I had seen a few of the prequels, which don't send me any hate mail on this, but I like the prequels better than I like the older movies. Only because when I sit down to watch a movie, I like to see like stuff just going down. I like to see all of the and to see the big group, this giant, to see the Jedi Order like alive and not just a couple of old guys and a ghost. I like to see, especially when the Jedi came to save Anakin and Obi-Wan. There was just, all you could see is just these lightsabers everywhere, and it's just going down. But what got me was the role-playing game for the Xbox, the old original Xbox, because it was such a deep experience. Like, it forced you to choose these really horrible choices sometimes, and you could choose to do what they would consider good. You can choose what they consider bad. You could make the choice that is in between the two, or you could not choose, but stuff was still going to happen. And that was such an eye-opening thing for me. So as far as the fiction goes, I like to think that anything that is created by a human being who can think deeply, And it doesn't matter what the source material is. If others can find meaning in it, I don't see it as any different as any other book of inspiration. So,
no, you're exactly right. But keeping in mind that modern Jediism and Star Wars are two completely different things. We only as a modern day Jedi took the name Jedi and kind of gave it life in a spiritual sense.
mm-hmm. Right, because I've still yet to see a prototype for a lightsaber that can cut through solid steel, and but as I say that in kind of a joking manner, I still find value in the other things that we can do, and as you said, that name can inspire so much. And we can bring it to life in so many different ways. And it doesn't make it any less, in my opinion, it doesn't make it any less fantastical or fantastic. Just because we don't have stuntmen living our lives for us, doesn't mean that we can't do fantastic things. I know you touched on this a minute ago about the training. But I just want to make sure, is training something that you want to offer in the future at some point?
Oh, yeah, very much so. I would like to, once I establish myself either more in an order or an independent order with myself and probably a couple others, I would offer training. I do have others who do message the page and message me personally, who do ask all kinds of things, all kinds of questions all the time. So I'm just thinking, in some kind of sense, that providing them with some kind of training or inspiration when they ask these questions.
Well, I know you don't offer training to students currently, but tell me, how does a Gray Jedi train?
No. It's a lot of it is reflection, self-reflection, reflection of today's world, a little bit in politics, so a lot of that doesn't matter. But there's some sense of morality that comes with it. And majority of the morality that comes with self-reflection. You know, I think about a Gray Jedi and a Jedi training. They're not really much more different, because I've said earlier, a Gray Jedi is still a Jedi, and we all technically kind of have the same kind of training. But just a Gray Jedi, we're taught to think deeper, think on a deeper perspective. What kind of different perspective is there? How many ways can you understand something? To every lesson, there was always more than one answer.
Yeah. I guess the funny thing is, as many different flavors of Jedi, and throughout the years, I've always kind of kidded about this. All the different flavors of Jedi there are, and so much anymore. It seems like it has been narrowed back down to just a few again. But there was a time where there was every flavor of Jedi you can think of, and each of them had a completely different way to train, a completely different way to dress, a completely different way of thinking, doing, so on and so forth. So that's why I asked that question, just so others can kind of get an understanding.
I have one last comment for the what you asked previously. I like to saying I've had many masters. I've had many mentors, and I find all these mentors from people who I've probably said before, the community or in just daily life in general. All these people, all these great people with great inspiration have inspired me to be the Jedi I am today. And I'm so thankful for them, because I would be so lost if I had not met these people. And if they're listening, I want to thank all of you. You've all been great, and I treasure and value our friendship very much, and I hope continue to do so as the future.
I think we have someone who may be on that list that you just talked about, who has a few comments.
Can I
great
start off?
Lord. Oh, great Lord and Master of the Hannigan.
Hey, how's it going, KOA? I have to say, it's great to hear you going back to doing the interviewing people in the community, because that's pretty much how you started this, isn't it?
Well, how do I answer that? Yes. For about a year or two, we did a Sunday show that we called Community Chat, where we brought in folks from different parts of the community, and they told us about their page. But it's, as you probably know, Michael, that it's hard to get people to come on. So what I'm hoping to inspire is others to want to come on and share with everyone else, even beyond the community. I mean, the KOA has a reach beyond the community, and we hope to share. I mean, this is my favorite thing to do. I'm glad you said that. This is my favorite thing to do. I love having conversations with people, because then I don't feel like I'm dictating anything to them, because that's never my intent. As I said in a video that I posted a few days ago, what I say isn't the gospel. I love sharing perspective with people, and that's, bringing as many people on as I can to do that. So, yeah, I hope to continue this. But back in the day, we would talk to authors and stuff who weren't in the community. But then again, back then, there wasn't a lot of books being written. And I'm so happy now that there's so many books and so many lectures and things that are written nowadays. And hopefully I can get them all on, because I want to shine that spotlight on the community so that others can see us in a way that maybe they don't automatically think of when they think of the word Jedi.
I had to laugh when you mentioned all the flavors of Jedi. That's why I sent you that message. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what it reminds me of nowadays.
Yeah, it seems to have calmed down a little bit, I think. I don't see a lot of different flavors like we used to maybe, 5 years ago or so.
I've always loved the Gray Jedi and the Shadow Jedi. I mean, actually, I think my first website, and thank God, it's erased from internet history now. I think it was like Shadow Jedi 01 at freewebs.com. It was, God, hideous. I think it was like in 2003 or 2004 when I put it up. Any event, I do got to say, I've been watching this guy for, I want to say, 2 years now, and he's definitely created a buzz. And he's definitely done a lot within the Gray community, which huge props out to doing it. And, it takes a lot to admit, yeah, I may have been a little over my head, because we've all been there and done that, but to actually admit it, that takes a lot of credit. So I'll give you a lot of credit for that one.
Thank you, man.
And I'm still going to highly recommend, check out the book about the Jedi. It was like 1,000 years before the Old Republic. The Jedi Code is something that you definitely want to check out and see where you go from there. You can actually Google that. It's JE space DAII, I think, and code.
Yeah.
You'll definitely love that code. I covered it once or twice in the past, and for the Gray Jedi, it would be the code I would definitely go with and use as my inspiration.
Hey, before you go, tell people how they can find your podcast.
I have a podcast, that's right. I love KOA. KOA knows I love them, and I was glad I'm part of them in an indirect fashion nowadays. But definitely check out Jedi Realist Radio at blogtalkradio.com. I do have a podcast. I'm going to work on it about a half an hour from now. But I heard about the Gray Jedi. I got the message, hey, I'm on KOA. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm calling in. Not to promote Jedi Realist Radio. It seriously wasn't a self-promotion thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm calling in. Because this guy, honestly, he's done a lot. I watched him go from the different Facebook groups, and, he took his lumps, and he's been running with it. And, he's been doing incredible up in Canada from when I met him and actually started talking to him, about a year or so ago, give or take, when we really started talking. And until today, I mean, it's been an incredible run from him, for him, and I'm looking forward to catching more up with Trevor later and seeing what happens with his new page.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming in for a minute and blessing our program today.
Hey, I love you guys, but I have to get my own thing going. You guys have fun. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right, man.
Yeah, thanks so much. Take care.
All right, and we have a caller. If I can get them in here. Area code 817, you're on the air.
Why, hello there. This is Connor Liddell.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Connor.
I'm doing fine. Hi, Trevus. I'm glad we finally get
Hey,
to
man.
speak in person, yeah?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I had a question that I posed in the chat that I thought I might express it on air. I was wondering what you thought about morality specifically from the Grey Jedi perspective. Like you mentioned that a Grey Jedi would do what is necessary, but what defines necessary? Is that personal goals or alignment and following the living force? How do you reconcile that?
Man, what a great question.
Yeah,
that's all yours.
That is absolutely a great question. Well, it almost becomes situational too, then, because it would vary off so many factors. On it would depend. Am I saving a life, and am I benefiting for myself? What is best outcome? And sometimes going what is necessary is going. You're going to disappoint some people. Sometimes you have to do what you got to do to either get to a goal or to get to a certain outcome.
That kind of reminds me of something that we are taught in the academy. When an officer arrives at a scene, there's something that we call the totality of circumstances, and that's a big undertaking when you have to come. And it could be anything, even something as simple as maybe a shoplifting, for example. Well, you have the shop owner, you have the suspect, but you also have all these other factors. Things even like you have to try and determine intent of this person and that person, and you have to take an inventory of the whole total circumstance, which can be tough. And that's kind of how I see that. Because, I've been to domestic violence calls, for example, where the person calls, I go, and now I'm the bad guy. It's me versus two, for example, where the victim is now on the side of the suspect. So you always have to try and take the totality of circumstances, because not every it's hard to, in other words, it's hard to nail down every single circumstance or issue that a Jedi might face in the world. Right. Even two conversations can be completely different. One can go well and one can go completely sideways, and stuff can happen. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on that.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that would this be a technique that a light Jedi, somebody who studies primarily light side techniques, could also benefit from? Because I can imagine that a light-focused Jedi being in a similar circumstance and checking all of his actions against his ideals and the training he's had, rather than being in the moment and responding to what's actually there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say, again, I said earlier in the show that a Jedi and a Jedi, there's not really much different in training, purpose-wise. A great Jedi will seek all truths and perceive all truths, compared to just one truth, which would be ultimately a conclusion. Well, a great Jedi will see multiple conclusions and then decide the best outcome depending on the circumstance.
Very cool.
I'd like to add too, Connor, that I don't think any of these things are exclusive to, say, a gray Jedi versus a light Jedi. I think because anybody can walk into these circumstances and these situations.
Mm-hmm.
I think the key would be to train as much about awareness as you can, because you might have to make a difficult choice. But at the end of the day, I think your question was perfect, because it almost comes down to the morality of the individual.
Yeah.
Because although you and I could train under the same master, you and I are going to be a little different based on our past experiences, our morality, even. So, what a great question. God, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Well, thanks,
absolutely.
guys. I appreciate it.
It's nice hearing
thank you.
from you, man. I'll have to talk in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Wow. if my old brother from another mother, David, was here, he would call that a mind bender.
Oh yeah,
he would call that a mind bender. What a great question. I'm not even sure if we answered it. I feel like I have to think about that one a little bit more.
Yeah, I had to think about it. I'm just like, oh man, that got me some deep thinking right there. I got to sweat a little bit. It's just like, well, how do I voice that? How do I voice that different? It doesn't differ very much from a Jedi. A Jedi is going to do the same thing. You know, I keep saying the gray Jedi and the Jedi, they're so similar. Gray is just another perspective. It, as I said, it's an understanding of a realistic view of things. You know, you're realist. This, you know, for example, the cup of water. People say it's half full or half empty. Well, a gray Jedi just gonna say it's a cup of friggin' water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I said that once, and a certain somebody who everybody knows who I'm talking about, but will remain nameless, did not like that I said it that way. So it is what it is, bro. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some more about the Gray Jedi as they fit into the community, because, you know, I've been around for quite some time, and it's always been one of the common debates that I've always seen just about anywhere, even in those Gray specific orders that used to exist, about the Gray Jedi. Have you experienced this kind of, well, I don't know if I asked you the question correctly. Let me try again.
Okay.
Why are so many other aspects of the Jedi uncomfortable with a Gray Jedi?
Well, it comes down again to Star Wars. You know what? I really don't like referring to Star Wars and Jediism, because the two are completely separate, and the more that we bring them together, the more they look like fools. So we got to try to keep Star Wars, our fan base, because, you know, I'm sure we're all fans, and then keep the realism aspect completely serious and different than from Star Wars.
But even those who follow Jedi realism, I know a lot of Jedi who actually don't even like Star Wars. I mean, that's a thing. And even sometimes they have a trouble with the Gray Jedi. And I think it comes back to what Connor asked us, morality. It seems like your traditional, it's even hard to say traditional Jedi because, like, there's so many aspects. Yeah. So it's hard to identify without putting people in categories. I wish everybody would just be Jedi, be done with it. But even those who don't rely on the fiction as much as others do, even they seem to have are uncomfortable with the morality of a Gray, and even more so Shadow Jedi. But you know, the Gray Jedi, I wonder why that is. I mean, even in a realistic aspect, and I think, I don't know, maybe it goes back to the question that Connor asked a few minutes ago about morality.
Actually, I can comment on it. So, the Grey Jedi is the biggest controversy because some believe that you have to be bad in order to be good. You know, they follow that traditional Star Wars outlook on them. Because as I said, in Star Wars, the Great Jedi will go great length to destroy a planet or eliminate an entire species if it creates balance in the Force. Some people actually believe that. They go around and they preach that, you know, they have to be bad and be good, but sometimes they can be bad. And that's what they think balance is. In an actual Grey Jedi, from my realist perspective, it is about balance, but it's about understanding what that balance actually is. That, you know, where that point meets hot and where that point meets cold, you know, and the whole temperature difference in between, metaphorically speaking.
I can see that. I can even relate it to the Avengers. Take Iron Man, for example. In Age of Ultron, he creates Ultron in service to the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen this movie. Shame on you. It's been out for 100 years. But Ultron then goes on to try and destroy the world. And there is just these little philosophical differences between, say, a character like Captain America versus Iron Man, where Iron Man, he's a good guy at heart. He tries to serve the light, but his methods always end up causing more damage. Whereas Captain America seems to be more like a character that will hold the line no matter what, because this is what he believes. And I can kind of see that dichotomy between, you know, some Jedi realists or light side. See, gosh dang it, I wish we could just, from now on, we decree that everybody's a Jedi. No, but I just, like I said, I mean, I guess it has to come down to what that particular Grey Jedi feels in their heart and in their morality. You know, how far would they go? Would they create an Ultron, you know, that they have to later stop, or would they just hold the line and let things happen?
As you said, Iron Man created Ultron. Well, he didn't create Ultron. Really, it was an accident. Because, you know, artificial intelligence evolves mixed with, you know, organic biomaterial and things like that, and he ended up going evil because of this other entity. Well, he didn't start evil, and Iron Man didn't create this for evil, but Iron Man also knew by the end of it he had to destroy it. He had to stop him.
Mm-hmm.
So he went to the great lengths to stop him and to do things to save people. It goes with the saying, the lives of the few are not worth the lives of many. Sometimes you have to sacrifice something in order to save as many as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take that into account. That is some of the philosophy of the Grey Jedi. Is, you know, all life has value, but if I must sacrifice few to save many, then those few are going to be sacrificed in order to save the lives of the many.
Do Grey Jedis make their decisions knowing that they are personally responsible for the actions and choices they make? You
have to. A Jedi too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Regardless of a Grey or a Jedi or, you know, even a person, we take that to heart, that accountability of our actions. You know, we hold that in our hearts forever, regardless of how small or how big. All of it has value.
Not that I'm saying that just Jedi in general don't take responsibility for themselves. I know most of them do. I think maybe that's where the morality part comes in for what we were talking about a little bit earlier, where a great Jedi is willing to bear that burden of a choice that may not be so good.
Yeah.
For them personally. Well, while we're on the topic of aspects, I asked you why certain aspects view the Gray Jedi in a certain way. How do you view the different aspects, like light, dark, shadow, polka dot, blue stripe, whatever?
Well, we have Sith realists. We have Corellian Jedi. We have Jedi mystics. And I'm personally trying to come up with maybe a Jedi sage even. Because Gray Jedi go with the natural living force, right? So let's, study almost like a Jedi healer, but in a little different. The sage is different. But in the end, you know what? None of that matters. Not whether you're a Jedi or not. It's being a good person and just doing the right thing when you need to do the right thing. That's what matters the most. None of this complicated philosophy or any of that really matters. We do this and we study this because it helps build our morality, but nothing beats just being a good person in the end, just doing the right thing.
We have a caller, but before I bring him in, I just wanted to ask you kind of point blank. So from a Gray perspective, from your personal Gray perspective, you're comfortable with all of the different aspects?
Oh, of course. I make it upon myself to study all these different perspectives, to discuss with people, to try to find new truth in different answers for different questions.
All right, let's bring in our caller. Area code 434, you're live on the air. Hello.
Hi, guys. Victor Sloan here.
How are you, my friend?
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
All right. How about you guys?
Living the dream, brother. Living the dream.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I have a couple, at least intending to be quick questions. Whether they are or not might be another story.
No.
That's okay. We're long-winded around here. We're okay with that. That's fine.
Now, to make sure that I haven't actually lost the wording of my questions, because it does happen occasionally.
Take your time.
With your particular view of the Gray, and this isn't necessarily, I guess, to discount the view of the Gray, but would it not be that the philosophy of the Gray Jedi is really what Jedi realism is all about? Because, I've heard other people discuss that all Jedi, being realists, living in the real world where there is not this black and white. We all are different shades of gray. And that being the first thing. And my next question is, and these kind of go together, hence why I'm kind of putting them together. Is that I know that we say, and words can't always match up with the reality, but I know that we say that we would like to separate Jediism from the Star Wars universe, but is that something that's really possible given that this philosophy, this lifestyle, whether Jedi is your faith or just a philosophy that you live by in your lifestyle, given that it is all founded in and primarily, at least initially, informed by the Star Wars universe?
Good question. Well, to answer that one, for modern day Jedi, we incorporate more of spirituality and as the page of the Art of the Warrior. And the Art of the Warrior is many different philosophies, perspectives brought into spirituality. Star Wars, the Jedi. I'm going to touch on the Star Wars movies here. So the Jedi, for the longest time, from the first movie all the way till they fell up to that point. The Jedi did nothing. The Jedi knew there was great evil coming. There was funny sides of it. The Jedi still decided to do nothing. Their council went and decided that, it's better to just sit back and let it happen. And look what happened. They fell. Oh, I'm sorry. I just lost my train of thought.
That happens. We're both parents here, so we know how that happens.
Yeah, I got daddy brain.
I think the first part of the question was, is Gray more of a realistic outlook on what a Jedi in this world could be, or might be? I hate to use the word should be, because, if we do that, then the universe is going to come upon us and stab us 1,000 times with. You guys know how it is.
Hand.
Yeah, should is one of those words I prefer not to use, because should or should not does not matter, because things just are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
And we touched upon. Go ahead, Trevus.
Okay. But to touch upon that, I would say yes. People essentially are great. Everybody has the potential to be good or bad. Good people do bad things, and bad people can do good things. We all have that potential. And I mean, between Grey Jedi and Jedi, that's, in my opinion, that's really how it should be. That understanding should be. But, shoulda, woulda, coulda. We have these differences, this diversity for, the different perspectives of people, because people interpret things differently. And that's where this diversity, I don't see this diversity of all these kinds of Jedi as a bad thing. Because in the end, we're still Jedi. We're all still human beings. We're having a physical experience in this body, and we're spiritual beings having this experience. Regardless of how we interpret or perceive things, in the end, it all comes down to what we do and how, and doing these things, and how it matters to us and it matters to somebody else.
This very thing reminds me. Now, before I say this, I'm not advocating that people drop the Jedi name. Before anybody sends me any damn hate mail saying, "How dare you say that's about me?" Okay. But many years ago, when I started with the Jedi Order of Ashland Knights, we were the flavor that we subscribed to was light side. However, the Order of Ashland Knights tended to fall more center, just because that's what life tends to do sometimes. And no matter how hard we tried to, say that the Order of Ashland Knights is light side aspect, when you try to write a philosophy or teach a philosophy that is intended to be as realistic as possible, it of course tends to fall more closer to center. When we dropped the name Jedi, when Derek Thompson decided to drop the name Jedi, then it became easier to not care about aspect. And we found that, to your point earlier, is the gray aspect, does it seem to fit realism or the real life a little better? From my experience, the Ashla philosophy certainly did that once I didn't have to care about the aspect anymore. And again, I'm not saying all you guys need to drop your Jedi name. That's not what I'm saying. Please don't send me hate mail. It was just what we did, and but that's kind of what that reminds me of. Let me ask you.
What?
You asked about Star Wars. How we can't take ourselves away from it. How does Star Wars fit in it for you, caller?
Well, I mean, I think in general, I'm not actually fully committed to the Jedi path myself at this time. I consider myself a Christian Jedi, I would say. So it's more of a philosophical lifestyle choice for me. Something I haven't discussed with many people as of yet. But I mean, for me, I mean, the term Jedi, just in the way that we use it, was we get a lot of the terminology which informs those views within the Jedi path from the Star Wars universe. Referring to universal energies as the Force, and referring to our spiritual paths, as us being Jedi. But I mean, it does fall into that path does seem to be relatively similar to other paths that exist on this earth. Like, I mean, there are a lot of inspiration from Buddhism and Taoism and such, but
and even a lot of inspiration from Christianity too when he wrote it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess due to the chosen one aspect and such.
Mhm.
I don't remember what faith George Lucas was, and you can tell me at any time. But he said that was a large part of it. He used a lot of symbolism from Christianity. That's what I love about Jedi in itself, and this is why, despite no matter how hard we try to get rid of aspects, as an example, the Jedi, the philosophy at its core, fits so well. It fits so well with so many other philosophies and even religions that people, for the most part, can follow the Jedi way without compromising their very, very strongly held beliefs.
Right. And I mean, as a follower of the path, I mean, there are people who can and do pretty much, use only the terminology to inform some of their personal leanings. You got to admit there is a really intense draw towards wanting to wear the Jedi robes and wanting to wear a lightsaber, which I have no robes but have a lightsaber, such things as that. But there are people who do not do either of those things and live only in the philosophy. I mean, just for example, Opie McLeod from Jedi Living, he's actually a bit more detached from the actual Star Wars universe than some generally would like to be.
Mm-hmm. Alethea Thompson, the host of Force Realist Radio, she has said on occasion that she hates Star Wars, but she's a Jedi. So it makes sense. It certainly does make sense.
Yeah.
So I'll pose this question to you, both of you, and you can take your turns answering. Knowing that when you say the word Jedi to those who aren't familiar with the realist aspect of it, how do we get ourselves away enough from it so that we're not being judged unfairly, but at the same time holding true to the tenets and the spirit of the fiction?
If you come up with something first, Trevus, you go ahead.
Well,
I left you speechless, everybody.
Oh yeah, another great question. It's a great question today. What we need to do? We need to take our hand and we need to think Star Wars as a metaphor object and just give it a big push. Go. We need to forget Star Wars. Because, like I said earlier, we look like a bunch of damn fools. All walking around in Jedi robes and Jedi gatherings. We need to let go of that. Let go of that fandom, because we look into this philosophy and spirituality. This is our personal path that we're trying to come to light. We're trying to turn it into a real view of things, and more we fall back on Star Wars, the less likely that's going to happen, because we need to get out there, and a lot of groups are doing it, and that they do great jobs and give absolute praise to these people who are out there doing charity runs and et cetera, et cetera. And that's what we need to do. We need to be publicly displaying ourselves as Jedi. We don't have to wear the Jedi robes and the lightsabers. That's fun stuff. You want to bring that to a children's hospital. I've seen multiple Jedi do. That's fun for the kids. And we're going out there being Jedi, making a difference. Touching lives, and and we learn stuff too, because we get this experience of a difference, and it feels good. It really feels good.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you bring out. I was just going to say, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you suck the passion right out of a great Jedi. Did you hear that? I'm sorry, caller. Did you say your name was Victor? I'm sorry, I missed your name at the. Okay, Victor, go ahead, friend.
Oh, sorry about that. I would answer that by saying yes, absolutely. We do need to be out there doing charity work. I mean, that's what anyone who proclaims any kind of faith or belief or just being human, we all need to be out there doing charity work, helping people.
Yep.
I mean, especially being on the topic, especially the Jedi need to be out there doing the work. It's not always easy for all of us, given different circumstances, but the desire is there, the need is there. I mean, so yeah, we absolutely need to be out there. Let's see here. Sorry, there was more to that. Let me see if I can locate that in the recesses of my brain.
I'm gonna add a thought. I'm gonna add a thought in there. And go. Can add that to your bloopers too.
Yep. All of this is going into bloopers. You guys self into.
Okay, I found my thought, and that is, unfortunately, the whole world is so familiar with Star Wars at this point that the term Jedi will never be separated. Now, we can separate ourselves from it, but we will have to always deal with other people judging us based on that association. I mean, that's not going to go away, unfortunately, but we're living in such a society, most of us, that any sort of alternative spirituality is going to be ridiculed. I mean, unfortunately, we've got to live with it.
Okay, I remember what I was going to say now. As I said this earlier, this talk of Jedi and spirituality and philosophy, again, it doesn't matter. If we're being good people going out there and doing things, that reflects upon us. And if we just happen to be Jedi, then that is the image that people will see. That is how people will perceive us as Jedi, as modern Jedi in Jedi realism.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
So I was last night spending time, and it's a little shout out to the Institute for Jedi Realist Studies. I think I said that right. There's so many groups, I always mix the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, Institute for Jedi Realist Studies. I was over there and hanging out in the library. If you've never been over there, for those of you out there, if you've never been over there, you should check it out. There's some really, it's like some of the cream of the crop stuff from even back from the old days. But I was over there, and there was an article that was entitled "Why Jedi," and it went on to talk about some of the influences from the fiction and how those can be turned on themselves into a realistic and practicable view of it. My thought is this: the Jedi as a movement is relatively young. 30. Well, I'll even give it a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
I'll even give it the benefit of the doubt and say since 1977, because I'm sure even back then people were inspired. There just wasn't very many avenues for them to express that back then. But that's relatively short time compared to Christianity, compared to Islam, compared to Buddhism, Taoism, so on and so forth, and on and on. I mean, they have thousands of years on us. When I see people wearing robes and stuff, it doesn't really bother me, honestly, because that's what inspired them. And any source, for me, and this is just my personal opinion, anything that can inspire somebody, whether that be them holding the good book in their left hand or saber in their right hand, to me, the effect on that individual is the same, and it inspires them. I like to see people inspired. I love it, actually. It inspires me. So when it comes to the robes and the stuff like that, I don't, in my heart of hearts, I don't believe that those folks believe that the lightsaber is real, that the robes are real, that, I believe that they use those tools as inspirations or things that move them closer to how they're just trying to express what's inside. And it's really hard. I mean, it's hard sometimes to express what you believe and how you feel, especially if you don't have thousands of years worth of literature to back you up. So I don't really have a problem with that. What I would like to see when people use the fiction, that they turn it into something that can be practiced in our world. I like I said, the robes and the stuff don't bother me. I have a set of robes that I in my closet right now that I used to use for promotional purposes and things like that. I don't go out and use them like some do, but that doesn't mean that it bothers me when other people do it. I think it's fine, honestly.
The way I see that being, and when I was in college, I majored in religious studies, not trying to say any sort of like high thing, but this is just referencing back to a little bit of stuff in my studies, and that's that a lot of religions per se have items they use for ceremony, and the use of those items, isn't just to make them look like such and such. I mean, it's to get them in a place where they are separated from the outside world and brought internally for their practice. And I could see for some Jedi how wearing the robes and having the lightsaber could be their tools of ceremony for their internal practice.
Keeping that traditional-wise, traditional Star Wars, it's even monks. Monks live every day in robes, and they do their ceremonies normally in a special kind of robe. I got robes myself. The purpose is for ceremonies of all kinds, to be spiritual or, somebody getting married. To be honest, I'm gonna walk down the aisle in my Jedi robes one day, and I have no shame towards that because I am a Jedi, and that is who I am, and I want to be seen as publicly. And and the 2016 gathering, they had knightings, and I'm sure there was lots of people in robes, and during the knighting ceremonies especially, and with the dueling sabers, lightsabers too. So all that stuff is fun, and it's cool to keep it in a traditional Jedi aspect of that. That is cool. I do agree with that, but I still try to push the point. You want to give Star Wars a big shove, at least as much as possible. And Victor is right. We are going to be publicly ridiculed again and again, as long as Star Wars is here, and that's just how it's going to be. But then we just got to keep doing our thing. That's it.
Yeah. You just got to keep on keeping on. Seriously, not even Jedi or any other thing related. Me and one of my good friends, we would always duel with each other and spar with each other. before we even had the lightsabers, I mean, yeah, it was really freaking dangerous, but I mean, we would use oak dowels with no protection whatsoever back in the day. And but no, even then, like if we were at our friend's house in an apartment complex, just like out in the parking lot, we would still have people come out of their apartments just watching us with like some people interested, some people judging, some people being like, look at these two grown idiots fighting with sticks. I mean, unfortunately, that's just the way people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, if there are children out there listening, cover your ears. At the end of the day, everybody got their ears covered? At the end of the day, who gives a shit? You know, I can't and will not accept responsibility for how other people feel and how they perceive me. That's on them. You know, it's on them. You guys keep on keeping on, as you said. We're coming up on about 30 minutes left in the show. Victor, thank you so much for calling, my friend. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for the discussion, guys. It was nice.
You're welcome.
Take care, man.
Like I said, we're coming up on about 30 minutes at the end of until the end of the show. It's been a really good discussion so far. We've had a lot of good questions, a lot of good points.
Absolutely.
And it's funny because we've already touched upon some of the questions. You see how that happens by accident sometimes. When we get folks in and they ask really good questions and bring up really good points, and it actually, you know, makes my job a lot easier.
I would think so.
It kind of makes your job easier too.
Oh yeah.
I was going to ask you about, you know, the grand scheme of things as it relates to philosophies, religions, how young the Jedi are and compared to those. But I think we already talked about that really good. That leaves us with our last thing here, and it's always been a tradition of the Knights of Awakening that at the end of an interview with our guests, we open the floor up and have the guests leave the audience with some final thoughts. But before I do that, I want you to tell everybody how to find your page, your work, and any other spots you want to send them to.
Well, I would send them directly to the page, or which is at Philosophy of the Great Jedi. Fairly simple to type in the search bar. Another place I would recommend as starting out would be the Jedi Church. The Jedi Church has a list of online academies and offline groups that you can be directed to and, you know, start the path of the Jedi. Or even just in the church itself, there's plenty of people to discuss things with, plenty of stuff going on, you know, and I highly recommend you check it out to anyone new listening.
And if they want to get a hold of you, the best way is through the Philosophy of the Great Jedi page?
Yes, sir.
With that being said, within the great tradition of the Knights of Awakening, is there anything that you would like to leave our listeners with today?
Well, I would like to read a quote from the page itself. Now, I'm going to read one of my recent posts, if that's okay. I accept the things I cannot change and change the things I cannot accept. That's the Buddhist teaching. And then here's the post. Lately, I've learned this lesson the hard way. By my own mistakes and the things I cannot change with the things that I cannot accept. No matter how much we have regret in something or want to change the past events or change someone's mind, all of this is out of our control. The only thing we can do is accept it and move forward in our journey. Understand what is presented to us. The more we hold on to the past, fear of the future, or resentment of ourselves, the more it will hold us back from being present with ourselves. We have to let go of how we feel, of what we cannot change, and just accept it for what it is, Trevus.
I really do appreciate it. When you decide to move forward, as you transform your page into a community and start populating, training and stuff like that, make sure you hit me up. I'm going to be watching your page close. You know, not like stalker close, but, you know, close enough. Because, again, I love shining a spotlight on the community, its individuals, members. And so I really do appreciate you coming on with me today.
Oh, absolutely. The honor is all mine.
All right, guys, I want to thank Jedi Trevus Nethimia from the Philosophy of the Great Jedi Facebook page joining me and sharing his insight. Again, if you or someone you know would like to be featured on the Knights of Awakenings program, just drop me an email at knightsofawakening@gmail.com. You can drop us a message at our Facebook page, the main Facebook page. It's just Knights of Awakening in the search bar. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I especially want to thank Michael Hannigan, Victor for calling in, and Connor for calling in. I really do appreciate it. You guys added so much value to this interview, and I really do mean that. Especially Connor's question just kind of left us speechless for a minute. It was a great question. So keep asking those questions. Keep searching for those answers. And like I've said before, we don't provide the gospel here. Our job is to share as many perspectives as we can to start those conversations. So we really do appreciate it. If you want all the latest content up to date, make sure you're a subscriber at the YouTube channel. We don't always do a lot of live shows anymore. We're going to do as many of those as we can. For the most part, a large chunk of our content is over at the YouTube page. And if you're subscribed to the YouTube page, then you'll be the first to see that stuff come out. Because generally I don't share it to the Facebook side until much later in the day. Speaking of live shows, coming very soon, we're going to have Matthew Segrest, author of The Modern Jedi Knight, on with us. We're going to have Laura Merritt on with us. Christopher Bird from the California Jedi. The always fun and bubbly Sammy J will be joining me as a guest host sometime soon. Brother Joseph Jacques he's the author of Chivalry Now, which is a review that I'll be doing probably next week. I'll put the review out, and we'll schedule an interview with him to talk about the book and many, many more. With that being said, I love you all very much. And until next time, awaken the night within.